think about, for instance, the report Citigroup did as one of many, talking about the amazing amount of value that is lost due to systematic racism or systemic racism.
Getting the greatest value out of diversity is this stage of inclusion. And it's really that sort of last mile of effort that we know that people have to get to, kind of passing by the check the box, passing by the representational diversity, creating that environment that extracts those ideas where you start to meet that space of value creation.
My frame is also, that middle-aged white guy who grew up in financial services, which can cloud my perspective as well. So then how do I show vulnerability to say, I have the same question, and to create a safe environment that anyone can ask a question?
There's a firm, and they were just really bad on diversity. But, the response was, well, let us tell you all the things that we're planning to do and what we're going to do. And my response was, that's terrific. We're going to pause on this process. And I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not now, but let's take all of that conversation and reduce it to writing for me. And to their credit, they were back with a very robust plan of action that was real. And you do this stuff long enough, you can tell what's real and what's not. And we were prepared to proceed.
We recognize many beneficial aspects to a remote working environment, but that also it could create, for example, two classes of citizens that may in fact be gendered. The crisis of COVID fell disproportionately on many families. So there is a very special set of issues that I think as managers, we need to be very attuned to. And I know I've focused here specifically on women, but I don't want to suggest that in any way I'm closing the aperture. I think the aperture needs to be very wide as it relates to diversity.
So we began an effort of doing surveying of the industry. And I think the conclusion that we all came to when we looked at the numbers is this is not great. We've got a lot of work to do, and maybe that's the first step. And one of the things I would like to see from that is also us looking at employee metrics and benchmarks much more specific to the way we manage these businesses. In many cases, we're using government categorizations versus portfolio managers, research analysts, salespeople, marketing, fund administrators, and then being able to see where have we made more progress.
The retention piece tends to get a little neglected. You need to make sure that there is support for these employees, that they have opportunities to lead and make impact within your organization.
Training and development and education programs are critical, and especially now during the COVID crisis, where there's so many workers who have lost jobs looking to re-enter the workforce.
So important to be educated on the facts. Spending time deepening your understanding as it relates to the struggles of a people that's not your own. Spent a vacation, one of the stops was in Berlin, and we went to the Holocaust Museum. Just simply, you can't go in there and not have your heart broken, right? And you come out with a much greater appreciation, much greater empathy for the challenges that a community has had. And I would encourage folks to do the exact same thing as relates to whether it's from a race perspective, from a gender perspective, from a sexual orientation perspective, to do that exact same work. Because when you do that and when you have your heart broken, right, you become a much different person as it relates to how you try to approach this. Because changing our firms cannot simply be the remit of HR, cannot simply be the remit of the D&I officers. It has got to be the business, and it's got to be the leadership to push forward even when it's not popular.